In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, your majesties, excellencies, and highnesses, may God's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you. Firstly, I would like to extend my thanks for the blessed efforts of the sisterly Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, led by the custodian of the two holy mosques and my brother, His Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, for this summit, which comes at a crucial time in the history of our region. Our summit is being held today while our Palestinian brothers in the Gaza Strip are going through what humans cannot bear from the space of the Israeli war machine, and the international community has failed to shoulder its legal and moral responsibilities and take action to stop war crimes, massacres committed in the name of self-defense, and put an end to this aggressive war. While it breaks our hearts to witness the wholesale killing of children, women and the elderly and the human suffering, we wonder how long the international community will continue to treat Israel as if it is above international law? How long will this allow it to flout all international laws in its brutal, never-ending war on the country's indigenous population? What is happening in Gaza constitutes a danger at all levels, as there are precedents recorded even at the level of aggressive wars. How did bombing hospitals become a normal thing that is denied? Accusing the victims at first, then justifying the existence of tunnels underneath them, then it becomes something that does not need to be justified after feelings have dulled and eyes have become accustomed to witnessing tragedies? These are unprecedented matters. We found in this war, or before this war during the siege of Gaza, a noticeable increase in the immunity rates of some people. Countries that claim to protect international law and world order. As we saw their immunity to the scenes of indiscriminate killing of Palestinian civilians, whether they were children or women, as well as the bombing of hospitals and shelters, it no longer affected them. Their immunity levels reached the level of seeing the corpses of innocent people being eaten by dogs. No, those countries do nothing. Praise God. The power of immunity is only against our Palestinian brothers. The international system takes for itself before it takes for us, when it allows it to be justified. Who would have imagined that hospitals would be openly bombed in the 201st century, and that entire families would be erased from records by the indiscriminate bombing of residential neighborhoods and refugee camps? And that an entire people would be forced to flee far away in the presence of deplored and rejected plans to displace them, all of this in full view of the world, accompanied by blatant racist statements by Israeli leaders, are not denounced by the leaders of their allied countries. The state of Qatar is steadfast in its historical position in support of the steadfastness of the brotherly Palestinian people and its just cause, and we continue, with our partners in the region and the international community, to provide humanitarian aid and work to expedite its delivery to those in need, despite the continued Israeli obstinacy in its complex, and in this regard, we demand the opening of permanently safe humanitarian crossings to deliver aid to those affected and the afflicted without any obstacles or conditions. We categorically reject the use of arbitrariness in the provision of humanitarian aid, and the threat of bombing it as a means of pressure and political blackmail, and we stress the need for this aid to reach all parts of the Gaza Strip. This is all the weakest of faith, and the least we can all do. We are also continuing to support all regional and international diplomatic efforts to reduce the escalation, stop bloodshed, and protect civilians, including making efforts in humanitarian mediation to release the hostages. We hope to reach a humanitarian truce in the near future so that the sector will avoid the worsening of the humanitarian catastrophe that has befallen it.
We reaffirm our firm position on condemning all forms of targeting civilians, regardless of their ethnic, religious, or national background. We also want to condemn in the strongest terms the targeting of health and educational facilities, and justifying that with unproven allegations. In this context, we demand that the United Nations send international teams to immediately investigate the Israeli allegations and accusations that are being used to justify the bombing of hospitals. This is despite the fact that nothing can justify such a crime. Gentlemen, you all know the position and feelings of our peoples regarding what is happening, and there is no need to elaborate on this matter, and disagreement over this or that issue should not be a justification for disagreement about taking a firm position on the ongoing crime in Gaza. It is not permissible to be satisfied with statements of denunciation, but rather we must take steps. A deterrent to stop the ongoing war crime, so that it also appears. Transfer and weight of Islamic countries. Israel's continuation of its aggression and committing crimes of genocide with such recklessness harms not only Arab and Islamic national security, but also the national security of our countries. In conclusion, we stress that the only sustainable solution to this issue is the one that establishes the foundations of justice in accordance with the resolutions of international legitimacy and the Arab Peace Initiative, which is the solution called for by the international community, and which we adhere to, out of our belief in the right of the Palestinian people to enjoy goodness and well-being and the right to self-determination in its independent state, and because we believe that the Israeli plans for the post-war period are criminal. It is a repetition of its colonial policies that have thwarted all peace initiatives, and even agreements, and led to all these crises, and the basis is that it refuses to recognize the rights of the Palestinian people. It only thinks about security arrangements while continuing the colonizer mentality and its practice towards the indigenous people. The failure of the international community to oblige Israel to stop the crime that is currently taking place while this meeting is held is a license for the United Nations to continue this disastrous approach. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God.
بوقف الجريمة الجارية الآن أثناء انعقاد اجتماعنا هذا هو رخصة للإمعان في هذا النهج الكارثي والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.